सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः शृण्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः यं गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततत्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Forgive me. So let us chant the first 5 verses of the 8th chapter. So I will chant. So what you might do is think about following me after I chant the whole line. So I'll do each verse in 2 lines, first and second, and then repeat the first line so that you can follow me along with me. So Arjuna uvacha kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama adibhutam cha kim proktam adidaivam kim uchyate adibhutam cha kim proktam adidaivam kim uchyate adiyagya katham kotra dehesmin madhusudana adiyagya katham kotra dehesmin madhusudana prayana kale cha katham gyeyosi niyatatmabhihi prayana kale cha katham gyeyosi niyatatmabhihi. One more time. Prayana kale cha katham gyeyosi niyatatmabhihi. Shri Bhagavan uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavodhyatmam Uchyate Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavodhyatmam Uchyate Bhutabhavodbhavakaro Visarga Karma Samgitaha Bhutabhavodbhavakaro Visarga Karma Samgitaha Adibhutam Ksharo Bhavaha Purushoschadidaivatam Adibhutam Ksharo Bhavaha Purushoschadidaivatam Adiyagyo Hamevatra Dehe Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati madbhavam yati nastyatra samshayah yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayah. So that's how it goes, the chanting. So what we were discussing in the last class was that this is often done in the Bhagavad Gita, where the seed of the next chapter is planted in the last few verses of the previous chapter. So this is how the continuity goes. It's interesting that in the Bhagavad Gita, as in some other texts also, also in the Panchadashi, the 15 chapters of Panchadashi and the 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, there is a methodology where there is continuity, like a string of pearls throughout the text, but each chapter is a synopsis of the whole thing. So you can actually take up any one chapter, and this is how sometimes it is taught. Many of the acharyas, when they come in for 1 week camp or Gita Yajna or something like that, they don't have time to finish the whole chapter. But just in that chapter, you can pretty much cover the start to finish of the whole Gita. But at the same time, in addition to a completeness of the character of the teaching in that chapter, there is also a continuity of different topics in a string of pearls. So what we did, we discussed this in the first class of the Bhagavad Gita, that even though the eighth chapter also is almost like a complete chapter by itself, but at the same time it has some topics that it wants to highlight which are not there in the other chapters. So the highlighting of the topics brings it the continuity, whereas each chapter by itself is also fairly complete. I just wanted to point that out. So the seed for the main topics of the 8th chapter were planted at the end of the 7th chapter. And so there were 7 questions that were, 7 definitions of the Swarupa of Paramatma, of Ishvara, that were planted at the end of the 7th chapter. And those become the questions for Arjuna to ask. So Arjuna now asks those 7 questions. And those are Kim Tat Brahma. So those 7 topics that we talked about in the last one was Brahma was, so let's look at the first one. Kim Tat Brahma means that you talk about this Brahman. What is this? What is this Brahman? So there, this was the question number. This is the verse number 1 and 2. So verses number 1 and 2 summarize all 7 questions. And verse number 3, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, now gives the answer. So let's look at the first one. The first one, all these words are very carefully put together, and so I think we should respect that. We should not just ignore the fact that it is just there. Like, for example, in the answer to Brahman, he adds the word Aksharam Brahma. So this is a very deliberate putting together of a word. Aksharam Brahma, Paramam. Okay, so Aksharam Brahma means that the Brahma is one entity in the whole world which does not sharati. Sharati means which does not change. Na nashyati. Certainly not, obviously if it doesn't change, that means that it does not get destroyed. Na nashyati. This is the meaning of akshara. And in fact, so much so that the name of this entire chapter is Akshara Brahma Yoga. Yoga of Akshara Brahma. What does that mean, Yoga of Akshara Brahma? It means an understanding and clarity of the fact that one should see the presence of the Akshara Brahma in our lives. So this is an important thing, that if I view myself and my life, what I find is that things are always changing. All things are changing. And changing means that they are getting destroyed. Everything seems to be changing. Everything seems to have an end. Everything seems to be replaced by something new. This is the experience in our life that we should be aware of. We are aware of it, but now we are giving it some definition, some thoughts to it. But there is one entity. So everything means except for one entity, which does not change. That entity is called Akshara Brahma. This is what we have to put our minds to. Because right now, I'm literally throwing the baby with the bathwater. Throwing the baby with the bathwater in the sense that my view of my life is that everything is changing. I am also changing. If the world is changing, I am also changing. And the world is also going to be destroyed at some point in time, as far as I am concerned, and I am also going to be destroyed. So here it is said, no, that's not true. You are throwing the baby with the bathwater, because Akshara Brahma is one entity in the whole world that does not change, does not get destroyed. And hard as it is to believe, that is your nature, your Swarupa, your conscious entity. You are the Brahman. Not what you take yourself to be, but what your real nature is. This is the Akshara Brahma. This is the consciousness. And the more you look into that, you find that unlikely as it is true. I never really thought about this. I could not be introduced to the very discrimination between the Akshara Brahma and the Kshara world, which we will come in a minute. So the consciousness is never changing. It is the very basis of the whole world. All transactions, all experiences. Even in our lives, even in our individual lives, I am aware. I'm aware I'm a baby. I'm aware of, if not a baby, certainly I think my memories go back to when I was like 2 years old. I remember this so well that my parents, my father got a very senior job in the coal mines, and we had a huge officer's bungalow, huge, and this was all occupied by the British at one time. And so when he became the manager of the coal mine, he was given this bungalow. Adds the word Akshara to Brahma, chapter from verses number 4 to 10 in great detail. It's the same thing, Akshara Brahma. Okay, first question answered. I had already defined Adhyatman, and so Arjuna says, can you please tell me the word for Adhyatman? Aksharam Brahma Paramam, second thing, means one which outlasts everything. Paramatma means one is still there but everything else has gone, is called Paramam. And that is only there in the consciousness, in the conscious entity that I am. Because the world is changing. Changing means what? Changing means that at one time it is there, another time while I'm looking at it is changing, gone. But the one thing that is still there, one which is there, no matter what other things are doing. That's the Paramam. So going back now to Adhyatmam, Swabhavaha. He says, Swabhavaha Adhyatmam Uchyate. So Adhyatmam, let's look at first Adhyatmam, and then I will explain the word Swabhavaha. Okay? Adhyatmam means the one that resides in me, the jiva, as the human being. The one which is residing, one which is prevalent, which is resident in me, is called Adhyatmam. So, Adhyatmam, here Atmam means not just the Swarupa, but the Swabhava. I'll explain that in a minute, the difference between Swarupa and Swabhava. We have shown that previously also, but again. So, the Adhyatmam is the Swabhava. How is it the Swabhava? And what is Adhyatmam? Adhyatma means pertaining to me, the individual. Pertaining to me, the individual. So here, the best way to look at that is the following. You have the complete space. And the space is the aksharam. In that manner is aksharam. You have a space which is unlimited, which is paramam, because whether there are things in the space or not, the space is still there, isn't it? So it outlasts everything else. Other things may or may not be there, but the space cannot be eliminated. It is always there. Paramam. So you have space. Now, as an individual, the space is also within a room. So if the room stands for individuality, then it should. So the various segmented spaces are really the individuals. Do the individuals not have space? It is the same space which is residing in the individual. So this is what is called Adhyatmam. So the Param Brahma, which is resident in me, the individual, Jiva, the human being or any other living being, really any other being, even a table, is called Adhyatmam. But here we are not talking about tables that cannot reflect the consciousness, because the human beings or living beings have something that can reflect the consciousness very well. It's kind of like if the sunlight falls on the walls and ceilings and so on, it of course they all reflect it, but not very well. But if there is a mirror in the room and the sunlight falls on it, it reflects the light very well. So similarly, our minds and our buddhi, our wisdom, our thinking, and in fact all the other subtle parts of the body reflect consciousness very well. So this is what is called Adhyatmam. Adhyatmam means that part of the Brahma which seems to be in, but that aspect of the space which happens to be inside this room now becomes the room space. So the room space is Adhyatmam. So similarly, the Adhyatmam is the Brahma which is seemingly enclosed in the human being. It's called Adhyatmam. And that Adhyatmam is the Swabhava of Brahman. You see, now you see the difference between Swabhava and Swarupa. What is the Swarupa of Brahman? Let's look at the example of the space. The Swarupa of the space is unlimitedness. The Swabhava of space is seeming limitedness. That has the ability. You cannot say the unlimited can never be limited. It can be seen to be limited. And in fact, it is a very important thing in our transactions. Because how much space do you have? How big a house do you have? When you're traveling, what is the space in your carry-on? So that relative definition of space which is enclosed within something is called Adhyatma. Okay? So this is all an attempt to make sure that all the aspects of the understanding are detailed out by definitions. Beautiful. Okay. So the second question is, Adhyatmam, which has been answered. Right? Okay. Now let's come to the third one, which is called karma. So this is given in the second line of the third verse. Bhuta bhava udbhavakaraha visargaha karma samgitaha. Samgitaha means it is defined. It is precisely, if you want precision of definition, is called samgitaha. So karma is defined as what? Bhuta bhava udbhavakaraha visargaha. Bhuta bhava udbhavakaraha visargaha. So karma, this is what karma, we say, what is the karma? The very famous our karma phala, karma theory, people talk about karma theory. So what is karma? Let's look into that. Bhuta bhavaha udbhavakaraha. Bhuta bhavaha means expression, the revelation. The expression is called Bhuta Bhavaha Udbhavakaraha. No, just Bhuta Bhavaha. So Bhuta Bhavaha means that bhava, that state of being which is visible is called Bhuta Bhavaha. Pardon me. Bhuta Bhavaha. So for example, you can take very examples. So when there is a seed planted in the ground, when it becomes a sprout, so now what it means is that the seedling has now expressed itself as a plant, and you can actually see the green color of the Bhuta Bhava. So now it is a changing of the Bhava, which is invisible, which is in the seed, to a visible aspect of it, which is a plant. So this is Bhuta Bhava. Okay? Now, Bhuta Bhava Udbhavakaraha. So what's the meaning of Udbhavakaraha? Udbhavakaraha means the one that causes something to be expressed is called Udbhavakaraha. Udbhavakaroti iti Udbhavakaraha means one which does the job of making something visible. That is karma. So karma means the cause of something to become visible. That is what karma is. And now we have the final word, visarga. So here where I think you can actually gain by reading different explanations of the word. Here Swami Paramarthananda was talking about visarga as being an event, just an event. But Swami Maheshananda in his book on Bhagavad Gita, which is called Shri Krishna Sandesha, beautiful book, has explained the word visarga more classically. So the classical definition of visarga means to give up, to release, to give up. It's called visarga. So here Sri Krishna uses the word visarga as a definition of karma. It makes sense here. Why? Because when a seed becomes a plant, it gives up its own status. It explodes into visibility. So the invisible status of the seed is given up. Beautiful. Excellent definition by Swami Maheshananji. So karma cannot be seen directly. You cannot say that I don't see any karmas. You talk about karma theory and so on. What karma? Hey, very obvious. Because things are being expressed at one time, all of a sudden. So, so I'm supposing you had you overate something more than you should have. So now you have some kind of a stomach issue. Some stomach problem comes in or whatever. So that becomes an expression. But the expression is a result of something that happened which was not visible to you. So the karma is the invisible cause of the various experiences of our lives. This is the way to look at it. And the various experiences of the life by themselves are not visible. You cannot say, I don't know, I don't believe in this karma theory. Everything just happens. Everything happens, but then how? See the continuity. So the karma is not some one thing that happens and then that's it. That can be done too. So for example, supposing one does a criminal act. So a criminal act meaning that a patient who is very sick and the doctor is trying to treat the patient and is unsuccessful in saving that patient. Despite all kinds of efforts by the doctor, the patient dies. So a person dies at the hands of the doctor. The doctor is in charge of the patient and he's doing a number of things and he's not able to save him and the person dies. So the visible result of a person dying is that he's gone. And the cause of the person dying was that the doctor did some actions but he was not killing the person, but he could not save him. This is one example. Second example is that somebody had a criminal intent to kill someone and the person dies. So in both cases, the visible result are the same. Patient also dies, some other person also dies at the hands of the criminal. Both have to be cremated or buried or something like this on the same day, let's say. Both people. But the causes of the death of the two are very different. In the case of the patient, the doctor continues to earn a lot of wisdom and money because he did his best to save the patient and he did all, and everybody can say, I think you just did so well. And despite what your efforts are, the patient could not be saved. We understand. And he's rewarded for it. The criminal, on the other hand, has something coming to him. Visible parts are gone. Both of the people were buried or cremated. But now this is the visible part of the result. But the invisible part of the karma has not been rewarded, and especially in the case of the criminal, supposing the criminal, that happens every day, he is not caught. He is not caught. Somebody shoots someone, and before the police arrives, this fellow just goes away, hit and run or something. Now, you cannot say that there is, this is the way karmas are, nothing, there's no need to really, no. Because the invisible phalam will be there somewhere. You may escape the local police, but the ultimate police you cannot fool. So that karma is still there, and it will fructify at some point or the other according to certain laws of karmas. We don't know what those laws are, and so that will fructify. That will come about, no doubt about it. But here's what happens is that we actually forget the previous karma, or we just don't even agree with it, we just ignore it. Everything is a fresh experience. It's not. And so it's not a single event. This is what I started to say, and I didn't finish that thought. Let me do that now. You may have a single event like doctor saving, not being able to save a patient, or a criminal killing someone. It's a major single event. But most of the time we don't have a major single event, we have a series of events that take place. Classical case of that is the way we are neglecting the health of the whole world. One by one, we are just abusing it. We are burning oil. We are not protecting our environment. It just adds up. And pretty soon the adding up of all the karmas, this is all karmas, this is all efforts on our part, will fructify into, and it's happening now. We've had one of the hottest summers of all time, and it's going to get worse. All the Antarctica is melting. So the point is that there is a continuous range of karma and karmaphala. Karma and karmaphala. And so this has both individual as well as totality. So for example, you look at it this way, the various problems we were having in COVID in India. India is in a very bad shape. So there you have individuals who are suffering, and the whole country is suffering. There are some individuals who are saying, why did I get involved with this? I had nothing to do, I am doing a good job, and you get a COVID. Well, you happen to be in this country at that particular time, and there is a certain larger karma in that country. Maybe because there is some group karma that was also there, and some individual karmas were also there. All complicated, we don't know. It is said in our Shastra that don't try to overanalyze it, because it is just too complex. Because the only thing you can understand is what is the difference between karma and karmaphala, how two things happen, and just understand that there is a certain order to doing this. As we had the same question a little bit earlier, that why is Ishvara creating so many problems? Ishvara is not creating a problem. It is all karmaphala of individuals and countries. We have really not protected the culture of India in a way that it should have been done. There's too much corruption and so on. And so it comes back in some form or the other. And, so I think that COVID and all these other aspects and so on, they all have causes and all have consequences. And what those are, we don't know. But they are there. You cannot, there is no there is no discontinuity. There is no arbitrariness. It's all making all sensible in that sense. And Ishvara does not play politics and say, okay, I want to punish this guy and not. That's not how it works. It does not have us. All that is self-regulating. Anyway, so this is a. So I think we can summarize that where we are in our life at this point in time is a consequence of our previous states, either in the previous life of previous stages of this life or in the previous life, and it is completely continuous, and there's nothing, no discontinuity to it. So anyway, so this is the brief definition of the word karma. Bhuta bhava udbhavakaraha visargaha karma samgitaha. So he takes an opportunity of Arjuna's question to explain what the karma is. Okay? Shrishti karanam karma. So that's number 3. So we had Akshara Brahma, Adhyatmam and Karma. Let's go to the next one, which is in verse number 4 now. Adibhutam Sharo Bhavaha. So this is number 4. Adibhutam. So Adibhutam, he has been now given an adjective called Ksharo Bhavaha. So he says, so this is all part of the Swabhava. So this is what would be called Saguna Brahman. Saguna Brahman versus Nirguna Brahman. Nirguna Brahman is what? Think about it before I tell you what it is. What do you think Nirguna Brahma is? Nirguna Brahma is the Swarupa of Brahman. That's the Akshara Brahma is the Swarupa. Then what is the Swabhavaha? Is Saguna Brahman. Saguna Brahman. And so the same thing is true for the individual. It's not any different. It's exactly the same. Microcosm is just one aspect of the macrocosm. So just like Ishvara also has Swarupa, which is unchanging, and Swabhava, which is changing. You can also look upon this as a person and personality. The person doesn't change, but what kind of a personality you may express at any one time. What kind of personality actually means even the clothing that we wear. These are all external things that can be put on and removed. Similarly are the bodies and mind. These are external things that are added on to myself and is removable. And in fact it is removed. They are continuously added on and continuously removed. That is the Swabhava. That Swabhava now has an aspect called Bhuta Bhava. Adibhutam. Ksharaha. Sharo Bhava means that unlike the Akshara Brahma, which is the Swarupa, the Swabhava is Ksharo Bhava, means changing. So Bhuta, Adibhutam means anything which is perishable. Anything which is perishable. So one can really do a meditation on this. Meditation, you should do this. This is a very fruitful meditation, very important meditation. You can just close your eyes. Or you can, doesn't have to be closing your eyes. You can keep the eyes open if you like. And just look at the scene in front of you. And the scene in front of you includes your own body and mind, your own thoughts, your own body. Is it not Sharobhavaha? Don't you see this directly? Is this not changing in front of your eyes? What more evidence do you need? This is called Adibhutam. Sharobhava. And there you can say, you are the Akshara Brahman, Akshara Atma, and Ksharo Anatma. So you also have, just like you have Nirguna Brahman and Saguna Brahman, one can even say you are the Nirguna Atma and Saguna Atma. Nirguna Atma is you, the unchanging. Saguna Atma is you, the changing. Nirguna Atma is the Purusha, the person. Saguna Atma is the personality. That is the definition of Adibhutam. Has been given some description which captures the essence of that word. So this is why the word Brahma, the word Akshara was used. And in Adhyatmam, Swabhava was used. On the word Karma, we saw a longer definition. Bhuta bhava udbhavakaraha visargaha sakarma. And then in the case of Bhuta, Adibhutam, Sharobhava. There, don't you see this? This is not something which is theoretical. We see this in our life. We should see it directly. Sharobhava. Then the next one, number 5, Adidaivam. All these are, you will see these words in Vedanta. So now I think you will become knowledgeable about them. Adhyatmam, Adidaivam, etc. This we also discussed in the Purusha Suktam on the Tuesday night class, which is now concluded. There we saw Chandrama Manaso Jataha. So there Manaha was the Adhyatmam. That was the mind of the Ishvara, Saguna Brahman. And then we saw Chandrama. And the Chandrama is Adidaivatam, which is now we will discuss. So you can see the common definition of how this is all Srishti is made. So what is Adidaivatam? Daivatam, yes. Here means Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha means the consciousness associated with the total mind, the total knowledge, is called Hiranyagarbha Adidaivatam. So here Hiranyagarbha means the presiding deity, also called the Brahmaji, who is the total mind of the whole creation. Not only the total mind, but it's the totality of the whole creation. So we have discussed this elsewhere, but just to bring that context here, the Shrishti, the creation that we see, is a tops-down creation, not a bottoms-up creation. Right? We have discussed this before. You will recognize it. So what is the difference between a tops-down and a bottoms-up? In a bottoms-up creation, like a house, building of a house, where the house consists of individual parts put together. You can have various wooden pieces that are joined together, bricks of the home, and the whole house depends on the individual parts, otherwise it cannot survive. If some foundational aspects of the house is taken up, then the whole house will fall down. This is called the bottoms up. The tops down is different. Why? Because you don't have parts in a tops down creation. You have aspects of the tops down creation. So you take a look at this ocean. The ocean is a good example of the tops down creation. There you cannot say that the ocean consists of the various parts of the ocean as waves. No. The waves are an aspect of the ocean. They are created by the totality. So similarly, Hiranyagarbha is the totality of the creation that has all the seeds of the various aspects of it already there. This is an example I had given up before, that when a woman becomes a mother and she has a love for this baby, this love for the baby is not individually manufactured by this woman. It comes naturally to her. Even the ability to give birth to a baby amongst all the women is a natural ability given by Hiranyagarbha. So the Hiranyagarbha is nothing but Daivatam. And of course the very principle of the presiding deity. Presiding deity means the very laws that govern the various aspects of the creation are all part of Hiranyagarbha. So just like, for example, in a government also, in the government of a country, you have various aspects. There is police, there is the army, there is the IRS, there is the local government, building department, taxes, all those kinds of, there is a certain laws associated with it. So similarly here, when we have human beings, then we have laws associated with the aspects of the human being. There are laws associated with the heart, with the blood, with the skin, pancreas, kidneys, all of those kinds of things, everything. There is a presiding deity for all of them. Like, for example, there is presiding deity for muscles. And if you do not exercise the muscles, you're not propitiating the presiding deity for the muscles. So this is what is called Adidaivatam. Adidaivatam means the expression of the Adhyatmam in the form of devatas that are responsible for the various phenomena in the world and presided by the overall one, which is Hiranyagarbha. So this is what is called Adidaivam or Adidaivatam. Okay, so this is number 5. Let's go to number 6. Adhiyagya. So Adibhutam Ksharobhavaha Purushashchadi Daivatam Purush. So this is also called Purusha, by the way. So the word Purusha is used in multiple ways, but here the word Purusha is in the form of the totality of the whole creation, which is Hiranyagarbha, is also given the name Purusha here in this case. Then the second line of the fourth verse, Adhiyagya. So what he asks, what is Adhiyagya? So he adds a epithet to it, a second word, just like we have used a second word in all the previous ones. He adds a second word, says Ahameva Adhiyagya. So Krishna here is, this is the uniqueness of this Bhagavad Gita, that you have a talking God. So as a avatara of Ishvara, he represents God, Ishvara. So he says, Adhiyagya ahameva. So he says, as far as your question of Adhiyagya, I am that person. None other than Aham Eva. Eva means definitely is just me alone, no one else. So what does that mean? It means that in the Tattva Bodha also we saw that the consciousness associated with the total Karana Sharira is Ishvara. It's the cause of the whole universe. Cause of Hiranyagarbha. Cause of the various karma phala laws. It's the very basis of the whole creation, and both abhinna nimitta upadana karanam, both the designer as well as the whole world has its own body. That person is Ishvara. That is the Adhiyagya. And in the Adhiyagya, of course, there are two aspects. You have the Maya Shakti, which apparently creates this creation. We say apparently because there is no real creation. Just like in the dream also, it's an apparent creation, but it's a creation. At a certain level it's a creation, at a higher level there is no creation. So the Maya Shakti is to create something out of nothing. And so the Maya Shakti plus the consciousness is Ishvara. So here the word Adhi, in common for Adhi for every place. Adhi Atma, Adhi Bhuta, Adi Daivatam, Adi Yajna. Adi Yajna, Adi, the word Adi refers to the indwelling consciousness in all aspects. So Adhiyagya means the very consciousness which is governing the entire yajna, the entire process of life. He says that's me alone. I am the designer, I am the one who is wielding the Maya Shakti for everyone. And that's the ultimate seed of the entire creation. So that is the sixth question that he had asked. Then he asked, he added another aspect of that here. It's called Ahameva Atra Dehe Deha Bhritam Varaha. So first of all, the word Deha Bhritam Varaha is an epithet for Arjuna. So he praises Arjuna, saying, Arjuna, you are the best among human beings. So for one who is so straightforward, so brave, and yet inquiring into the truth of what should be done, what is the right thing to do. This is the excellence in human beings. One who is a leader, and one who is interested in doing the right thing, one who is inquiring about the truth of things is the best. So he says, Deha Bhritam Varaha. You are out of all the people. He praises Arjuna. That is the name of Arjuna here, Deva Bhrita. So, but then Adhiyagyaha Ahameva Atra Dehe. Atra Dehe. So here, Arjuna's question is, you are the Lord, you are Ishvara. Where do you reside? Because you are just there as a form to me at this point. But I'm not talking about this form at this time. Where do you reside? So the answer to that is Atra Dehe. He says, you will find me all within yourself. Everyone will find Ishvara within themselves. Within meaning what? Not as though you are a ball or a room, and inside of the room there is Ishvara sitting there. He says, you don't have to look anywhere else, everywhere. I am hiding inside everything. It doesn't matter what you start looking for, but I am not away from you. If you want to go to some temple in Himalayas or Kumbh Mela, and you can do so, but you don't need to. Why? Because there is no place I am not. And so this is a very important thing that is talked about in the Gita at various places. In the 10th chapter, for example, Swami Paramarthananda gave this, Ahamatma Gudakeshaha Sarvabhutatma Asthitaha. In the 18th chapter, Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hriddesho Arjuna Tishtati. Narayana. So Narayana means Naraha eva Naraha Tasya Ayanam iti Narayanam. So Ayanam means the residence of the Lord is in Narasya. Narasya means every person's. Where am I not? Where is the consciousness not? Can you please find a place where there is no consciousness? So So really speaking, I am hiding as your Swarupa. And so don't have to look for, don't have to go anywhere. Wherever you are, just look for me there. In fact, your beingness, see, this is the thing we have to see. Swami Dayananda used to say that. He says, our problem is that we mislabel things. And we usurp things. What is mislabeling and usurping? Usurping means that this is mine. So how does it happen? So the very Atma that I am, I feel this is just my Atma. This is me. This is your Atma, this is my Atma. This is just like saying this is my space. What we have to see is what I call as my Atma is really Paramatma. And what that means is that the individuality is a false notion. It is really Ishvara, the Akshara Brahman, which is giving me the truth about my own self. It's only Ishvara there, only Brahman everywhere. What is Paramatma alone is, Jivatma is just a misrepresentation. It is a usurping, and it is a mislabeling. That's like, this property belongs to the whole city or something, and I just take possession of it and say, this is mine. Well, you can pretend, but you know what? You please give up this pretension, because if you don't give up this pretension, you'll be punished. And what's the problem with the punishment? This is me. The punishment is you will go and leave this life. And it's not an easy thing to leave a life. That is the punishment. And you go to the next life, and there also you are saying the same thing. So the moment the thing to do is to let the owner of yourself take possession of you, which is Ishvara. So this is the sixth question of Arjuna, and the seventh question is, which we will do next time, which is the central theme of the 8th chapter, which is given in the 5th verse. Antakale cha mameva smaran uktva kalevaram yaf prayati sasad madbhavam yati na asti atra samshaya. So he says, the consequence of this is that if you do not become a Jivan Mukta in this life, I recommend that you remember me at the end of this life. And here's why and here's how. And so that is the main topic of the 8th chapter, which forms the 7th question of Arjuna, and that we will take up from next time on. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. He says, so I'm really sorry that our internet problems are still causing problems, and we will look into that. I had made a change in getting a more powerful, pardon me, a more powerful modem, but it is not working very well. At least we're not getting disconnected completely, but I'm going to look into that with Chandra and Raj's help, and hopefully we'll be soon. We'll be okay soon. Ashwin Nayak asked, where can we find the text of chapter 8? Gita should be easy to get from some place, but I will try to actually put this on in case some of you may not have it. I will put this on on our website. I'll do that this week, so you will find that. Very good. Happy that you're all enjoying this. I also enjoy really just talking about the same thing. It's not the teacher just telling it to the students. It's a sharing of the vision, and the teacher gains and enjoys it as much as the students do. So I'm very happy about that. It's wonderful to really employ these truths in our life and to jointly study them as we do. So thank you so much. I don't see any other questions per se, and I think this freezing thing we have to get to the bottom of, and we will try to do our best to do so. So with that, I say goodbye to you, and we will see you next week. Om.